extremely honored to be here to announce and pass on the C to the 26th captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Auston Matthews.
It's official. Auston Matthews is the new captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Good afternoon. There's now a big C on his jersey.
Auston Matthews is taking over from John Tavares, who was at Real Sports this morning to pass on the baton. CTV's Sean Leathong joins us now live with more. A big day, Sean.
Huge day, Nathan and Michelle, and what the Maple Leafs are really trying to show today is just how much support they have behind Auston Matthews becoming the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, John Tavares was on stage along with GM Brad Treliving talking about the decision being made sometime starting early in the summer, but also talking about the conversations that were had between John Tavares and Auston Matthews. And the point they really wanted to make is that John Tavares was on board the moment GM Brad Treliving talked to him about the possibility of transitioning this captaincy from Tavares to Matthews. And one show of support they actually had today was actually John Tavares' children showed up to this event wearing Auston Matthews jerseys, and he talked about that, saying that they love their jerseys, and one of his demands was that they get assigned Auston Matthews jersey when they do this transition. But they said that the first conversation happened between the two of them, now two captains of the Toronto Maple Leafs in their time. Between John Tavares and Auston Matthews, the conversation happened first early in July, and they walked through the process. And a little while later, Auston Matthews talked about what it was like getting that phone call and having that conversation to become the captain.
Yeah, I remember, you know, after he kind of let me know and everything, I told him I was like shaking. I had chills, and you know, like I said, it's such a big honor just to represent the Maple Leafs and put on that jersey every night, and you know, to be the captain is truly special. So, you know, for him to call me and kind of let me know that he wanted to pass on the captaincy to me, you know, was very emotional, and, you know, felt a lot of things, but it's truly an honor.
Now, beyond the support that you saw from the players and the organization, there was also the support from families. Auston Matthews' parents were here, John Tavares' wife, children, and their parents were here, but then also the players on the team. Both Mitch Marner and Morgan Riley showed up, and former captains Wendell Clark and Doug Gilmour were also on hand to talk about how heavy this moment is, how important it is for the captaincy of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now that this has all been settled, they look forward to next season. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. We're getting a sneak peek at what's in store for the Canadian National Exhibition. And we're also hearing that future developments on the ground could make it difficult for the fair to continue in the future. That story's coming up this half hour.
But first, let's take a live look outside. We've reached the midweek mark, and the sky is clear. It is blue. We also have the warmth, feeling a little bit warmer than it was yesterday. Lots to like today. Let's bring in Jessica Smith to talk more about what's in store. Jess.
A beautiful day ahead of us. A little warmer. You'll notice that heat kind of rising a little sooner. It was a little hotter if you were up early on this morning, and we're going to see that heat continue to rise. Still a northwesterly flow to the winds now, but it becomes southerly later on, and that's going to help the warming process really take place. For now, not a lot going on in the satellite radar picture, thanks to high pressure keeping the sky nice and clear. It is relatively comfortable outside. We're sitting in the mid-20s, feeling into the upper 20s, but the heat is on as we head into the afternoon, and the wind directions change from northwesterly to a more southerly flow. Temperature-wise right now through the islands and Pearson, it's okay. We're in the low 20s, feeling into the upper 20s, but the heat is on the rise into the second half of the day. Coming up, your full forecast right now. Back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Now to the continuing search for a missing Markham woman. Police
are still guarding the rural property that was the site of a massive search yesterday. CTV's Mike Walker has been following this story and continues today. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, as you can see behind me, a police cruiser continues to hold the scene here at this Stouffville farm. Investigators believe Anita Moy was supposed to come to this farm when she disappeared on Friday. But at this point, police tell us that their search hasn't turned up anything significant. This morning, police were seen focusing at the house on this rural property near Kennedy Road and Van Dorth Side Road. Neighbors tell us the house isn't occupied. An investigator was seen going around the back of the house this morning. Police have told us that their forensic investigators searched the home for any evidence on Monday. Now, this comes after an extensive ground search here yesterday for any sign of the missing 56-year-old. That involved a search and rescue team, the K-9 unit, air support, as well as divers with the Marine unit who were seen from our CTV News chopper scouring a large pond on the property. Those search teams were cleared from this scene after police say, again, they didn't find anything significant here. Moiwa, who is a well-known and successful real estate agent, was last seen by her family at her Mark home in the Bay Cliff and Warden area last Friday morning. They last had contact with her around 11 that morning. Her vehicle was found on that same day in a Medical Plaza parking lot in the Warden and Finch area. Police say they've been working around the clock to try and determine Moy's whereabouts and haven't yet confirmed the reason for her to come to this farm. Here's more from police.
We don't know if she was here, but we believe that this was one of the places she was due to visit on Friday. It was a place that she was due to visit. Whether it was a showing or not, I don't know.
Now, at this point, police say they are not considering foul play in Moy's disappearance. They say what is concerning and unusual is that she's gone days without contacting her family, something they say is out of character for her. As for what's next in this investigation, we are waiting for an update from homicide detectives. Reporting live in Stouffville, I'm Mike Walker. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. An industrial accident in Etobicoke has turned deadly. A construction worker died after being trapped in a trench last night. CTV's Natalie Johnson has the story.
In the moments after the trench collapsed, emergency responders rushed to save the worker trapped inside.
There was a lot of running around and panic when it first happened, but these responders sure got here in a hurry, and I know they did everything they could on it.
Officials at the scene reported that 2 workers had been down in the trench doing waterproofing work on the exterior basement walls of this Etobicoke home when the side of the hole caved in, closing in on one of them.
A typical foundation is 8 feet, so foundation here or footing is at 9 feet. He was approximately at the 6-foot level in the knee position, and he had earth up to his upper torso.
A Toronto Fire Technical Rescue team operating a specially engineered system for the extrication, using a specific kind of panel to disperse the weight of the rescuers and an excavation vacuum truck to assist with earth removal. The responders dug down while shoring up the sides of the hole. It took just 15 minutes to free the worker, but despite resuscitation efforts by paramedics, he did not survive. The tragic outcome of what the division chief identified as an unprotected trench.
A lot of this is happening due to a lot of shortcuts in saving money and implementing shoring that's required after 4 feet. After 4 feet the depth, they have to put a protective shore system in. And so due to the time consumption, digging, getting machinery in along these houses, they bypass that process. And then obviously we've had 2 trench rescues in the last month, and that's due to an unprotected system.
The victim's fellow workers visibly distraught. The Ministry of Labour now investigating exactly what happened, how a man working on such a common and small-scale project lost his life. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
A spike in Mpox cases in Toronto has prompted Toronto Public Health to warn people in at-risk communities to get vaccinated.
The number of infections is more than quadrupled compared to this time last year. CTV's John Musselman has the details.
A sudden spike in Mpox infections, formerly known as monkeypox, has prompted Toronto Public Health officials to urge eligible residents to get vaccinated.
We know about almost 3/4 of the people who've acquired Mpox this year have not had 1 or 2 doses of vaccine. So we'd really like to remind people who are at risk to get either their first shot or their second shot if they've only had 1 so far.
Here is a look at the numbers. As of July 31st, there have been 93 cases in 2024. That compares to just 21 confirmed cases in the same period last year. While health officials know travel is not playing a significant role in these cases, Toronto Public Health says Mpox cases have been reported right across the city. However, a higher concentration of infections has been observed among residents in the downtown core.
With love, respect, no moralization, no value judgments whatsoever, but our outbreak in Ontario has predominantly been in the men who have sex with men community. In fact, over 96% of all of our cases in Ontario have been in men.
The virus first gripped Canadian headlines in 2022. It spreads from person to person through contact. Symptoms of mpox usually start 6 to 13 days after exposure, but can take as long as 21 days to appear. They include fever, chills, muscle aches, and a rash.
It's 2 shots, 28 days apart. And for anyone who's been immunized back in the first outbreak in 2022, they're still protected. There's no need for a booster shot for those people.
Most people recover from the virus on their own within 2 to 4 weeks.
John Musselman, CTV News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, we're learning more about the listeria outbreak across the country, linked to plant-based beverages. Ontario's Ministry of Health confirms to CTV News Toronto that a 3rd death reported this week happened in this province, similar to the first 2. At least 20 cases across Canada are linked to recalled Silk and Great Value products. Manufacturer Danone says its items will be reappearing on shelves, but they will not include anything from a third-party facility in Pickering linked to the recall.
There's big political news from Japan today as the country's Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida, announced he will step down next month and will not run for re-election. Kishida has been prime minister since 2021, but support has fallen in the wake of a corruption scandal involving his party, the rising cost of living, and a slumping yen. His approval ratings fell to 15% last month, the lowest for a Japanese PM in more than a decade. The Liberal Democratic Party has been in power almost continuously since 1955.
Meantime, hopes for a ceasefire in Gaza have been dealt a blow, with Hamas now saying it will not take part in a new round of talks set to begin in Qatar tomorrow. At least 4 people have been killed and more than a dozen others injured in an Israeli strike on a refugee camp in Gaza. Residents say a refugee camp in central Gaza was hit just after 2 in the morning. The Hamas-run health ministry says 36 Palestinians have been killed and 54 wounded in the past 24 hours. On Tuesday, the U.S. approved $20 billion in weapons sales to Israel. The move comes amid heightened concern that Israel may become involved in a wider Middle East war.
We continue to believe that a diplomatic resolution is achievable because we continue to believe that no one truly wants a full-scale war between Lebanon and Israel.
The U.S. Special Envoy is meeting with Lebanese officials in Beirut today. The Biden administration is trying to deter an escalation between Israel and Hezbollah after Israel killed a senior Hezbollah commander last month.
U.S. President Joe Biden has weighed in for the first time on Ukraine's ongoing military offensive in Russia.
I've spoken with my staff on a regular basis, probably every 4 or 5 hours for the last 6 or 8 days. And it's creating a real dilemma for Putin.
Those comments came as Ukraine said its forces had taken control of more than 1,000 square kilometers of Russian territory in Kursk. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky received a briefing from his army chief today as Russian civilians flee the impacted areas. Kyiv says it does not want to keep any new land, but is trying to push the Kremlin into peace talks as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues with deadly consequences. And there was also an update today on an ongoing mystery about the Nord Stream pipeline explosions. Those gas pipelines in the Baltic Sea from Russia to Germany were ruptured a few months into Moscow's invasion of Ukraine in September 2022. Prosecutors in Poland say they've now received a request from Germany to arrest a Ukrainian diver in connection with the case. German media say he's alleged to have been part of a team that planted explosives at the site. Russia had blamed the U.S., Britain, and Ukraine for the blasts. They denied involvement. Well, there could be more turbulence on the horizon for air travelers in Canada.
Air Canada pilots are preparing for job action amid an ongoing labor dispute. The Airline Pilots Association and Air Canada have been negotiating for more than a year and remain far apart on compensation and other issues. The pilots are voting on whether to give their union a strike mandate. The ballots are set to close August 22nd, and a strike could begin as soon as September 17th.
In Alberta, thousands of Jasper evacuees are preparing to return home Friday, unsure of what to expect.
The town is warning people of potential hazards in homes that were spared from the wildfire. CTV's Amanda Anderson reports.
To be honest, I'm not excited. I'm not sad. I'm just numb.
Unlike some of her friends, Patty Uri's home in Jasper is still standing. Her family received this photo and a short video after the wildfire ripped through town.
It appears to be in good shape from the outside, but it's, you know, a couple-second clip. We're anxious to get back and see it in person.
She'll get to do that on Friday. Uri plans to be at the park gate when the highway opens.
I'm going to be wearing an N95 mask, so I'm going to be really cautious to protect myself, but hopefully I can get in and walk around. I'm curious if there's water in the basement or you know, all the food damage and the rot. I'm concerned.
Some people may have smoke damage. Some people may have water damage. Some people may have no damage. It's not till you get in there that you know what you're dealing with.
The Insurance Bureau of Canada will be in Jasper to help people with any insurance questions.
If it's safe, take pictures, take video if you can with your phone. You know, and don't forget, you've got clothes in your closets, all of those kinds of things. Take pictures of everything. The more information that you can provide your insurance company, the quicker they can get your claim rolling.
She says you should also keep receipts for anything spent on cleanup or repair. People should also plan to be self-sufficient as services in town are still limited.
Residents choosing to stay should ensure that they bring essential supplies to last for up to 72 hours, including food, drinking water, and medication.
I just want to know if our house is livable. I just can't wait, so I want to go and check it out.
Uri hopes to make her home livable as soon as possible, not just for her own family, but for friends who no longer have one. Amanda Anderson, CTV News, Edmonton.
Tropical storm Ernesto is bringing torrential rain and strong winds to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. The storm is currently packing 110 km/h sustained winds. Ernesto is expected to strengthen to a hurricane later today and could become a major hurricane in the next few days. One of the largest stadiums in the world is taking no chances as Taylor Swift returns to the stage.
Swift will be in London for the first time since a foiled terror plot in Vienna. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
Taylor Swift will return to the stage on Thursday with more than 90,000 fans expected to pack London's Wembley Stadium each night for the final performances of the European leg of her Eras Tour.
There will be thousands of people involved in security. There will be uniformed security in law enforcement. There will be plainclothes security in law enforcement.
It's the first time the pop star will perform since authorities thwarted an apparent terror plot targeting her shows in Vienna. And officials have announced there will be none of this. Open-air sing-alongs known as tailgating. These congregations have become a mainstay of the Eras Tour, with more than 40,000 fans gathering outside the stadium in Munich to listen to the concert. While tailgating was banned at Swift's earlier appearance at Wembley, the stadium announced today it will move any fans who gather outside the venue who don't have a ticket. Last week, authorities in Vienna arrested 3 teenagers accused of targeting a gathering area outside the stadium where Swift was set to perform. One of them, seen here wearing an ISIS flag and holding machetes, allegedly confessed to planning a suicide attack with knives and explosives.
Wherever there's a whole pile of people, it's a target-rich environment. And the concerts will go on. I mean, they just can't stop because of the actions of a couple of people. Security forces across the world just have to keep preparing accordingly and move forward.
Officials in Canada are watching closely what's happening overseas, with Swift playing 6 shows here in Toronto and 3 shows in Vancouver this fall. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
A group of cyclists have kicked off a days-long journey from Toronto to Montreal, all in support of children's hospitals. Participants gathered at Sick Kids Hospital to kick off the 19th annual 401 Bike Challenge. 23 cyclists will split a 580-kilometer bike ride over 3 days, with plans to reach Montreal's Children's Hospital Friday. It's all to raise money for the pediatric oncology units at both hospitals. The challenge has already raised more than $3 million over the years. Before they set off this morning, riders shared their thoughts about the challenge ahead.
We've had a good night's sleep last night. We all met downtown and we had a nice dinner as a group, and Had a good night's rest, just meant to play well. Like all the riders have been training pretty much all summer for this ride.
First year I was scared. After that, it's a little easier because you know what you're up against, but it's nothing compared to what these kids are up against. So even though it's painful, your butt hurts, your arms hurt, your arms are almost asleep, these kids go through chemo, they go through radiation.
You can find more details on the fundraiser and the route the riders are taking at 401bikechallenge.ca. Great weather for it, Jess.
An absolutely stunning day to be outside on the bike, on the beach, on the patio, whatever you want to do. We're holding on to a ton of sunshine thanks to high pressure, giving us a much more stable air mass. It's going to get warm, though, as we head into the afternoon, kind of creeping into that 29, 30-degree mark, feeling into the mid-30s when you factor in that humidex. So sun protection, hydration, they're going to be key to enjoy this weather safely. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we head in towards the end of the week and give you a heads up for some active weather on the way.
You may be able to get some stunning images of the cosmos right here on Earth, but it's hard to compete with the views from the International Space Station. Take a look at this time-lapse of the Aurora Borealis, also known as the Northern Lights. It was captured from the ISS today by NASA astronaut Matthew Dominic. The sun's magnetic field is at its peak of its 11-year cycle right now, and it sent out at least 5 strong solar flares since Saturday. Those charged particles interact with the Earth's atmosphere and magnetic fields to create the light show in the sky, also again known as Northern Lights. Always beautiful to see that.
Our planet is magnificent. That is so incredible. And a day like today, when you have the sun, when you have the heat, just beautiful summer weather, makes you feel good, makes you want to get out and do stuff.
It does, and we're getting into that kind of sweet spot of the summer season where we still have lots left, but we're, you know, the C&E is popping up, and that's kind of that trigger that the end of the summer season is near. But I'm really enjoying the fact that we have this midday kind of break from the cooler weather. We get the sunshine in there, we get the heat before the rain rolls in at the end of the week. Weather is brought to you by the Prezzer Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Lots of sunshine out there. A little high-level haze. We're holding on to a bit of smog, so just be careful if you do have any breathing challenges. But overall, it is going to be a fantastic day to get outside, to get active. But you got to do it in the right way when that comes to hydration and sun protection. Temperature-wise, a much warmer day. Still a northwesterly flow to get the day started, but winds will change into the afternoon and things start to really heat up. Sitting at 25 right now, it feels like 28. We're going to feel our daytime high really start to increase into the afternoon. A lot of that daytime heating takes place. Still really warm through northern Ontario. They're still kind of benefiting from some of that heat that's impacting portions of the prairies. Today, though, we'll see a daytime high around 29, maybe even up to 30, feeling into that mid-30 range, that more typical summertime heat. And that's the same really through Waterloo, through Hamilton, Niagara, out towards Kingston. But we are going to see some spotty showers the further east you are. Into this evening, nice and clear, a little warmer. Sitting at 18, we should be at 16. We're kind of one of the outliers, the same with Kingston, but it's fairly seasonal really right across the board for everybody else. Not much going on today and into the day tomorrow, thanks to that high pressure holding firm. But there's a system making its way out of the U.S. kind of in the Dakotas that will push its way across pretty slowly. It really doesn't impact us until kind of midday on Friday, but this could impact your plans for the afternoon and evening as we round out the week. For today, though, honestly, really nice. Not a lot to say. It's just a beautiful day, a fairly light wind, comfortable for spending time outside, but a higher UV index. As we head in towards our Thursday, still lots of sunshine. The cloud cover does start to increase late afternoon. The rain will move its way in first to that southwestern corner down towards Windsor. As we head into Friday, it starts to sweep across, but the best chance for shower activity for the GTA, the downtown core, is into kind of the midpoint of our afternoon. So by no means a wash of a day, but it will impact your drive home. So it could slow down the commute for a lot of people. Really warm and sunny, beautiful as we get through our Wednesday, our Thursday. Thursday, the cloud cover increases very late afternoon. So no rain just yet for Toronto, for the GTA, a good portion of southern Ontario with the exception of Windsor, but then it really rolls in as we head in towards the afternoon on Friday. Temperature-wise, it does cool us down a little for our daytime high. We get back towards a more seasonal mark, but the heat really holds on into the evening, so it can be a little challenging for sleeping. It's a little muggy out there. Scattered showers expected off and on, heavy at times through our Saturday and our Sunday, so that will definitely impact your weekend plans, but just grab the umbrella and give yourself extra time on the roads. That starts to roll out as we head in towards next week, and although it does cool down as we head in towards Tuesday, overall the sunshine returns, so I'll take it as a win. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
It is. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Still to come, what one family vacation with a cross-province trip tells us about the availability of electric vehicle charging. We'll have that after the break. The challenge of charging an EV has been highlighted in a family trip by an automotive industry executive.
The trip from Ottawa to Kincardine took around 10 hours. CTV's Rahim Ladani has the details.
As Ontario accelerates towards having more electric vehicles on the road, some drivers feel the infrastructure needs to speed up.
It really is just something that's always on your mind. You're watching the range of your vehicle and you're checking maps constantly.
Brian Kingston, who's the president of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association, recently embarked on a family trip from Ottawa to Kincardine in his electric Chevrolet Blazer. After a local charger wasn't working, he made it to Stittsville, where only one of the two stalls were operational, and he charged up.
If you are traveling 400, 500, 600 kilometers outside of the range of your vehicle, you will need to access these public chargers, and they need to be fast public chargers.
After charging again in Belleville, he arrived in Markham to top up. This is the charging station in Markham Kingston says he came to that day, and at the time, 2 out of the 3 stalls were not working. This afternoon, as you can see behind me, crews are on site doing maintenance.
I don't want people to come away thinking, oh God, the infrastructure is bad, so I can't choose an EV yet. I think what's important to remember is that 80% of Canadians drive 50 kilometers or less a day.
A spokesperson for Natural Resources Canada says the federal government is supporting the EV push by investing $1.1 billion to support the deployment of a nationwide network of 84,500 chargers by 2029 across Canada. That would be ahead of the federal Liberals' mandate that all vehicle sales emit zero emissions by 2035.
Most of the automakers have announced that they're going to go to the NACS standard, which is essential, let's call that the Tesla standard. And so they'll all be compatible with Tesla by probably 2025, late 2025.
Kingston's family did eventually reach Kincardine. However, they say it took 10 hours, 2 of which were spent charging their vehicle.
If you want Canadians to switch, you have to help them in that transition. And the best way to do it, particularly in these early years, is to overbuild the infrastructure.
Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
If you're vacationing down south and need to hail a taxi, you need to make sure you're using a reputable licensed company, Michelle.
Oh, yes, there are fake taxis and shuttles operating in Mexico that are ripping off unsuspecting tourists. I'm sorry, I thought this was fully your read. I'm involved in this one. Pat Foran has the story.
I just want my $2,300 back.
Glenn Egan of Toronto was visiting Mexico City in March of this year. He took a taxi ride that should have cost about $15. The driver demanded he pay with a credit card, then claimed the charges didn't go through and accepted cash. Within a minute, Egan got a notice he'd been scammed.
I stepped out of the taxi and immediately I got a text alert from RBC saying $2,300 and a few cents had just been charged by Visa.
Egan said he contacted Visa right away to dispute the charge, but after 4 months of trying, he's been told he will not be given a refund.
At the end, they basically said, well, I didn't get a receipt. And so without a receipt, they can't dispute the charge.
It comes down to my word versus a scammer's word.
Adam Attard of Mississauga was vacationing near Cancun, Mexico in July. He took a short ride in a shuttle at the airport. The driver locked the doors and demanded payment by credit card.
We couldn't get out of the van. There was no visible latches or locks to open. And he said, you're not leaving and you can't get your baggage back until you pay me the $3.
Attard was also told the payment didn't go through and then the driver accepted cash, but his credit card was immediately charged over $3,100. He also used an RBC Visa card and was initially told he would be refunded the money, but later told he wouldn't be.
The disputes department told me that because I willingly put in a PIN and I don't have a receipt, that they will not refund me anything.
CTV News reached out to RBC about the taxi charges. A spokesperson said, "We review each instance of potential fraud on a case-by-case basis. We remind clients to take precautions to ensure they're dealing with a trusted source when transferring or receiving funds." Not long after reaching out to CTV News, Egan was told he would receive a full refund of his $2,300. Attard was also refunded his $3,100, which was great news for him.
I am ecstatic that I got in touch with CTV News. I'm so thankful for you and your team, what you guys did for me. I really appreciate it. You guys are heroes. Thank you guys so much.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
As all age groups face their own combination of daily struggles and challenges, a new study suggests Torontonians in their 20s are having a particularly rough time. The Toronto Foundation crunched the numbers on residents aged 20 to 29, of which it says there are about 430,000 in the city. A higher percentage was more likely to express concerns about everything from housing costs to mental health to food insecurity as compared to those above age 30, citing high levels of feelings of isolation and hopelessness in the age group. Now, the authors say collective action now can help avoid even broader consequences for the future. Stephen Iyer is the lead researcher on this study about 20-somethings and the challenges that they're facing, and he joins us with more details on this. It's very concerning for anyone, especially being in that age group or having a child in that age group. What are some of the reasons why people in their 20s are struggling?
There's clearly a gigantic change in affordability over the last decade that's contributed to challenges. We see that 40% of folks in this age category were saying that they were struggling to pay mortgage or rent, compared almost twice as high as those 30 or older. And a big part of that is, of course, for a lot of folks who are older, they might have owned their homes for many years. They might be living in rent-controlled conditions. And so that's really had a huge challenge in terms of financial challenges. On the flip side, when we look at a lot of the mental health challenges, this is something that's relatively new. When we look at a decade ago, the World Happiness Report has been measuring happiness in Canada and other countries for a long time. And back in about 2010, they noted that life satisfaction was higher amongst those who are about 20 in their 20-somethings. When we look at it now, we can see that life satisfaction is considerably lower, and we see much higher levels of depression. For example, 39% of 20-somethings in Toronto were reporting symptoms consistent with a major depressive disorder, compared to 22% of those at 30 and older. So we've seen a marked shift over the last decade in terms of both financial challenges as well as mental health concerns as well.
And what about the phones and social media? How much is that a factor?
Yeah, we definitely look at that in the context of the report. And we do note that amongst those who are in this age category, those who are spending the most time on phones had much higher rates of mental health challenges, higher rates of anxiety, and higher rates of depression. In last year's Power of Us report, we looked at a different dimension. Toronto Foundation analyzed data from who's going to use community facilities the most, things like parks, community centers, gyms. And we found the opposite pattern. So folks who are spending the most time in community had the best mental health. And both those are correlational, so we can't necessarily say that, like, one is driving the other, but it certainly does point to the fact that, like, when folks are involved in their community and they're spending a lot of time with others, building connections, building relationships in person, we do see better outcomes, where on the other side, those who are spending the most time online are reporting much more challenges with their mental health.
And what are some of the other solutions that can be done to help those that are in their 20s?
Yeah, we talk about a couple different sides of things, and obviously affordability is such a gigantic one, and if we don't have some solutions there, a lot of the challenges are going to continue to persist, because if you're struggling to pay for your rent or your mortgage, if you want to be able to afford to have a family and you can't, it's clearly going to have some major consequences on your financial situation and your mental health. We also talk about solutions in the context of employers. Folks who are in their 20s were much more likely to want to go to work in person, and we want to make sure, like, when folks are going, that employers are providing them supportive work environments. They're not just going to go sit by themselves in an empty cubicle, because they are often looking to build connections and make friendships and connect with others, and they're much more likely to want to do that than older folks, and often the conditions are not necessarily in place. And from nonprofits' perspectives, I think when you look at the scope of solutions and programs available for this, there's a lot fewer than there might be for young folks like youth or for older adults. So we think, like, there's some opportunities to new solutions that are really focused on allowing people to spend a lot of time in person, to build connections, to get involved in their community, because a lot of folks are seeking that, but they're not necessarily finding what they're looking for at the current time.
Yeah, some great points. Stephen Iyer, lead researcher at Toronto Foundation, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Anyone in the market for back-to-school supplies knows, goodness, the costs really add up.
That's why a Toronto man has gone to great lengths to help families in his Lawrence Heights community, walking from Toronto to Niagara Falls to raise money. CTV's Janice Golding has the story.
For everyone who's asking how I'm doing, it's okay.
You're looking at Trevon Douglas making his way from Toronto to Niagara Falls. The youth leader decided to walk 134 kilometers this past weekend to raise money for back-to-school supplies for kids in the Lawrence Heights community.
Because in Lawrence Heights, a lot of youth, their parents are going through financial burdens. And what I want to do is just show the youth that they can do anything they put their mind to.
I also like other kids to also get, this opportunity. Getting school supplies and all that is not every family that's able to provide for their kid to go and get school supplies.
Douglas was joined by longtime friend Pius Adu Adarkwa.
I didn't even think twice or blink twice. I told him I'm going to join you, and we're all going to do it together so that the kids also get this opportunity, and one day they shall also pass it on to others.
Originally, Douglas believed the trek would take 28 hours. Instead, it took 46 hours, the duo getting by with nearly no sleep.
This whole 46 hours, we slept only one hour, but it wasn't 1 hour straight. It was in 15-minute pit stops, so we slept 15 minutes every city. Right now, my legs are still dead.
I'm good. I just need to rest my legs.
The GoFundMe goal was to raise $25,000 to cover the cost for backpacks, school supplies, and shoes for youth in the community.
This walk, I used a 25-pound weighted vest. 25 represents the $25,000 that I would like to raise for the youth in Lawrence Heights.
A goal they haven't reached, although they hope people will still support the venture through GoFundMe.
Even though if we don't make it to the $25,000, I'm going to make sure that every single kid in Lawrence Heights gets a backpack, gets a clean haircut, gets free shoes.
Janice Golding, CTV News.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Now to all the food, fun, and the rides that people look forward to at the CNE.
Yes, it is Media Preview Day, but there's also some uncertainty about the future of the fair. To talk more about this, CTV's Scott Lightfoot joins us now live. Have you eaten a whole bunch of stuff?
Michelle, I haven't touched anything yet. I'm waiting to get the work done, and then I'll enjoy the food. But it's Media Preview Day, as you mentioned. You can see behind me, that is when members of the media, social media influencers descend on these grounds like ants, because there's free food here. And it's not just any free food, it's CNE food, which is always different. So you're probably used to the mini donuts. This year, why not go for a giant donut? Check out the size of this. Can you get that, Francis? It's massive. How about a 12-inch samosa? You can go for the 12-inch samosa. A lot of crazy things here. We're going to show you some videos, some of the choices you have here. If you can deep fry it, it's probably been done here. There is deep fried crab, there is deep fried lasagna, there's deep fried butter chicken lasagna. They have deep fried mac and cheese, deep fried pickles, just about anything that you can imagine. As for things that are healthy, well, we looked around. There's some avocado ice cream, there's a peach cobbler, some Ontario strawberries, but if you're looking for healthy food, this is not the place for you. Of course, this is the CNE. It is an annual tradition that brings 1.6 million people down, or at least it did last year. They're hoping even more will come this year. The biggest attraction here, they tell me, is the food pavilion, but it is not the only attraction. Of course, you've got the Midway, you've got the games, you've got agriculture at the air show. Plenty of yearly traditions are returning this year. There's also wrestling, BMX and skateboard demo. There's an art show in the casino. This year, however, there are also some questions about the future of this event. Of course, the CNE grounds here are massive, and they're only used a couple of times a year. There's some issue with the building of the new spa at Ontario Place. CNE officials say they've been told there may be a parking lot put in on part of the grounds here. They say that there's also an expansion to the hotel that's on the site, and their lease on the food pavilion is up in a couple of years as well. So they're sort of planning for the future, but we spoke with the CEO of the CNE this morning. He said that any changes that are made to reduce the footprint of this place will have negative impacts, not just on this event, but every event held here.
We understand that one of the preferred approaches that was being discussed by Infrastructure Ontario is to put up a parkade. above ground surface behind the Presser Administration Building on Lot 854. First of all, that does very little to help with connectivity to Ontario Place because it's quite a distance away and not sheltered, particularly during the winter months. But aside from that, anytime you put something on the grounds above ground, number one, you should be looking at trying to have architectural integrity with what this site is about. But more than that, these are programming areas. They're not parking lots per se, although people view it that way. We need it. We needed to put events on. We needed to not just us, the Royal, you know, the Carnival. Throughout the year, you need space. And if you obstruct too much, then it's going to prevent us from doing what we do.
That's CTV's Scott Lightfoot reporting. He's gone to eat the food. We'll see if he's still conscious by 6 o'clock. Now to some other news. A new survey suggests the number of homeless encampments across Ontario has crossed an unfortunate milestone. The Association of Municipalities of Ontario carried out a survey in 2023. It found at least 1,400 homeless encampments were in place across our province. The AMO says their existence isn't unique to larger urban centres and can be found in communities big and small, urban and rural, in both northern and southern Ontario. The organization shared the figures as it calls for more action by higher levels of government to address the increase. And AMO Policy Director Lindsay Jones joins us now live. Lindsay, your data supports what many people see as they go about their day. The encampments are such a complicated reality in our city and beyond. First, how would you describe the situation right now?
Well, it's really a crisis on so many levels. It's a crisis on a humanitarian level, on a social level, but also an economic level, as the existence of these encampments everywhere is really impacting small businesses.
Now, as part of this, you're asking for guidance from the province. What would you like to see? Really, what are the solutions here?
Well, there's solutions that we need on a couple of different levels. In the short term, we really need additional resources to be able to expand our shelters and to be able to provide the wraparound supports that we know will help people get off the streets. In the long term, we need real investments in permanent community housing, as well as a lot better access to treatment for addictions and mental health. Really, what we're asking the government for at this point, both the provincial and the federal government, is leadership. We all need to come together and make this a priority to be able to make progress.
If you ask the various levels of government, they will say they're spending millions and they are working to address this. But why do you think we haven't been able to do this? Why do you think these numbers are getting worse?
Well, because some of the really fundamental systems that are important to be able to ensure there is stability and a safety net in our communities have been underinvested in for 30 years. You think about income security, deeply affordable housing, as well as mental health and addictions. These are systemic issues where governments of all stripes have really not invested significantly for the past 30 years, and it shows.
While listening to you, it really just seems like such a huge challenge. And really, how do you cater to the rights of the unhoused, but also the concerns of communities regarding, you know, safety and their ability to enjoy public spaces?
Absolutely. And this is really the crux of where we're looking for guidance from the province. The rights of people in encampments are, without question, fundamental and central. But right now, there are no resources in place to enable us to meet those rights. So normalizing encampments is not the answer. It's not good for communities, it's not good for businesses, and most importantly, it's not good for the residents of encampments. So we need the province to come to the table to help us to figure out both what the long-term solution is in terms of investments, but also then how to manage these really complicated situations in the near term.
We wish you the best in your efforts. Lindsay Jones with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Coming up, some Arkells fans get a special surprise on their special day. Stay with us. A pair of Arkells fans got a welcome surprise after they tied the knot in Newfoundland. Frontman Max Kerman was staying in the same hotel where the wedding reception was being held and serenaded the couple. The Hamilton Band was in town for a show this past weekend. Kerman decided to make an appearance at the reception after learning the newlyweds were fans but couldn't make the performance because it was on their wedding day.
While we still have more weeks left of summer, the Farmer's Almanac has already turned its eye to the fall and winter. Yes, from the east of the Rockies to Ontario, about 2/3 of Canada is projected to have below normal temperatures. But so is British Columbia, which is also expected to be unseasonably chilly. Quebec and the Maritimes will see temperatures that are higher than normal, this according to their forecast. Newfoundland and Labrador will also be warmer, but also wet. In case you're wondering, normal refers to a 30-year average. The Old Farmer's Almanac, which claims to be 80% accurate, was founded in 1792. The full forecast from them is on our website at ctvnews.ca.
Showing the winter viz already.
The audacity. Oh. That's okay. No snow today, I promise. Just like too soon. But you know what? We're talking about the C&E and we're getting into that transitional time. We were talking about the sun setting a little earlier, but it ain't time for snow yet. But today will not feel like winter by any means. We have daytime highs well into the upper 20s, low 30s, humidex values into the mid 30s. So it's nice out there, but it is hot. So make sure you hydrate. As we head in towards the afternoon, just a whole lot of sunshine out there. High pressure really holding firm, creating a beautiful, albeit warm, midpoint to our day. Temperature-wise at 25 right now, feeling like 28, and the heat is on as we head into the afternoon. A beautiful few days ahead, but there is rain on the way this weekend, so keep that in mind. Get out, enjoy it, but bring your umbrella because you're going to need it.
All right, good advice. Thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.